Hi everyone. So I'm so excited. Today we're going to be making some sweet and savory Valentine's treats. So I'm going to start with our Seriously Fudgy Brownies. These are delicious. I actually had to beg for this recipe. It was a family friend. She finally turned it over, so I'm going to share it with you today. So to get started, I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to need some baker's chocolate, just like this, the kind that is semi-sweet, and it comes in little blocks. So I had about a package and a half of this. All the measurements and recipes are on my website, KarenAntonini.com. So if I lose track or don't use the exact measurements, they're all there. So I've got my chocolate and a cup of butter, some sugar, baking powder, vanilla. For the frosting, I'll need some powdered sugar, a little more butter, and additional chocolate. And then 4 eggs and some bread flour. So I've gone ahead and I have my cup of butter in a little saucepan like this, and I've added, this kind takes about an entire box of this chocolate. I believe it's about 4 ounces. So I've gone ahead and I have that, just going to allow that to melt. Just want to keep an eye on this. So that has gotten started. And in the meantime, I'm going to put in my bowl, I'm going to take the 4 eggs and put them in this bowl, and then I'm just going to whisk them until light and fluffy. So add these eggs. This is such a great recipe. It's pretty easy, and it's so different than your normal brownies. You'll never want to go back to the packaged mix anymore. This is really good. And who doesn't love chocolate on Valentine's Day? I mean, they're kind of synonymous, right? In fact, chocolate has a really long history, starting with the Aztecs, and eventually it got to Europe. And how it did become synonymous with Valentine's Day was when Richard Cadbury, who, of course, with Cadbury chocolates, he actually was a marketing genius and decided to create a heart-shaped box for his chocolates. And ever since then, Valentine hearts have become associated with chocolate, or hearts with chocolate. So a little bit of history there. So I'm just going to beat these until they're light, or whisk them. It doesn't take that long. I like to do this by hand with brownies because you never want to overbeat. So I'm going to adjust my chocolate butter so it doesn't burn. Just always keep an eye on that. So that's about right there for that. So I'm going to take that away. I just use the whisk really to whisk the eggs because I feel like it gets clumpy once you add the sugar. So I'm going to stir my chocolate. There, that's almost ready. I actually pre-started this so it would be, I have a couple recipes I want to do, so I wanted to make sure that this was getting going. That looks like it's ready. So I'm just going to let that cool because we're going to add this to this mixture, and you never want it to be too hot because it will kind of start cooking the eggs. So I've got my eggs. I'm going to add my 2 cups of sugar right into my bowl, and then take my heart spatula. Got to bring that out, time of year, and just make sure this is really blended. And just make sure it's all combined. And while I'm waiting for the chocolate to cool off just a little bit, it's not too hot, I am going to sift my flour. So I'm going to put that aside. So we're using bread flour, and you definitely need to use the bread flour. So I've gone ahead, it's about a cup of the bread flour. I'm going to put it right into my sifter, just like this. Oops, I'm going to try, make sure it all gets in there. Just makes the batter a little fluffier when you sift. So there we go. And then my salt, it's half a teaspoon of salt, and the half teaspoon, get that, of the baking powder. Make sure I get the right one. Okay. Half a teaspoon, there we go, of the baking powder. And then just sip that together. So go. So not too many steps here, and you'll have these amazing little treats. So this will bake for about 30 minutes. Always check your oven. Of course, everyone's oven's different, but it's about 30 minutes. So I am going to show you the finished product once we're done here because we will run out of time, but I'm going to show you the entire process so you know what to do at home. So now this is cooled off a bit. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla right into my, I'll use a teaspoon. I generally know how much just by using my eyes, but I will put a teaspoon right in there. Just add that into the chocolate mixture, give it a swirl. Get that out of the way. Make room for our next project. And then I'm just going to add this right into the eggs. So let's make sure that's all mixed up. There, no chocolate on the bottom. And just go ahead and add that into your mixture. Here we go. Okay, actually my family friend sent this out to me and while I was at college, and it was so amazing to receive this just tin of brownies that I could share with my friends. And I'll never forget that. And it was so good. So I definitely wanted that recipe. So just make sure these are all combined. Now that you have the egg and sugar mixture, make sure the chocolate is just combined with that. It'll start to blend together a bit. Make sure it's all stirred in there. And then I'm going to add my flour. Okay, so I'm going to reserve this extra chocolate for the frosting. Stick this here just to show you. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the flour. You can add it gradually. You just want to make sure that there are no clumps at the bottom of your bowl. So just go ahead and stir that. And you never want to over stir the brownie batter. You just want to make sure it's just combined. So there we go. So I'm just making sure. And I'm going to put this into a greased 9 by 13 inch pan. And like I said, I'll bake it for about 30 minutes. I always tell people just to check your oven. Everyone's oven is different. And I find that sometimes, funny enough, my oven seems to go quickly. But with this one, it might take another minute. So just stick a knife or a cake tester when they come out. Make sure that you do that to see how they're doing. So, all right, I think I got all the flour at the bottom. I don't see any. So it should look like this, your batter. It's delicious. And I'm gonna go ahead and grease this pan. So I put my little cutters aside for the second minute. And I also have a ton of sprinkles. You can add them or not to the tops of your brownies to make it more festive for Valentine's, and whatever you like. So, and I just really prefer to use butter in the bottoms of my pans because the grease or the actual PAM or whatever, the chemicals, I just really don't like the idea of those. It's a little messy here, but it's just so much better. So here we go. All right, so that is greased. And also these are a little bit sticky, so you definitely want to make sure you get the sides, the bottom and the sides of your dish that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead, put that aside, and then just go ahead and put my batter right in there, smooth it all out. Make sure it's all smooth in the pan. And then I'm going to stick it in the oven. So it's also going to just smell amazing, amazing in your house. My son told me the other day that this is his favorite dessert that I make. So I hope you all get a chance to try this if you like chocolate and brownies. It's just a little bit different and definitely a crowd pleaser. Okay, so that is done. I'm going to stick this in my oven and wait. That. Okay. All right. Whoops. Whoops. Okay, so that will be good. Now, I am going to we're gonna make my little heart tartlets. They are so good. I need some, in this case, some puff pastry dough. I love this brand. If you can find it, Dufour, it's excellent. It's a little step above maybe the Pepperidge Farm puff pastry, but if you can't find it and you wanna use the Pepperidge Farm, it's perfectly fine. So I like to work with that right when it's cool. So I kept it in the fridge. I'm gonna get that now, and I'm just gonna get a little bit of my flour. Where did I put that flour? So here it is. Because this is a little bit sticky, this dough, and you wanna make sure that you are able to cover your work surface so that it doesn't stick, as well as your rolling pin. So there we go. All right, so I'm gonna get my dough. And yeah, you never want it to be too much at room temperature or it's gonna stick, especially when you're using little cookie cutters like we're going to do today to make these little hearts. So this is defrosted and has been in my fridge, and I'm just going to roll this out. So as thin as I can make it. So it's before it just becomes too thin that you can't work with it. So you'll know. So I have my rolling pin and a little bit of flour. I like to put the flour in a bowl like this so that you're not just putting your hands right into all the flour in your house. It's a little more sanitary and it's just a little easier to work with. I always prep when I'm cooking. So just a little tip there. Keep that there. So I'm just gonna roll this out. Just roll it. This is really great, this puff pastry. I make little pizzette. You can use little mini pizzas. That's another option, which is also red for Valentine's. But today I'm gonna make these fabulous little tarts. So first I'm going to roll this out and then take two. The great thing with dough is that if you kind of mess up, you can just roll it back up. And if you need to make more, you cut out your shapes and you have extra dough, you just roll it back out. You cannot make a mistake. So I have two different sizes of my cookie cutters, something like this. I have one small, one large heart. And I am going to make as many of these hearts as I can make. So I'm just going to make as many. You might need a little knife. This dough is a little sticky, like I said. You might be able to just pop it out. There's one. If you need a knife to kind of work the edges. So I'm gonna place these now on, so you can see this, I'll move my hands, on a cookie sheet that has been lined with parchment paper. You definitely want the parchment paper here because otherwise it won't come off. It's just so much easier. It won't come up when you go to cook after you've cooked your hearts. So I'm gonna make as many hearts as I can. Let's see, and if you need, I love to work with this metal spatula because it really helps to get the shapes up off the board, but these are coming right up, which is great. So make all these little hearts. And then what I'm going to do is, whoops, it's a little sticky. Sometimes if you pull the edges of the dough, don't be afraid, you can just pull it up and get your hearts. I'll do a couple more and then I'll show you the top part of the heart, what we're gonna do. This recipe also calls, you need some Roma tomatoes, Roma or plum tomatoes. And the reason for that, which I'll explain when we're doing it, is that they're a little bit heartier. We're gonna be making heart shapes with those plum tomatoes. So here we go. Right. We'll do a couple more, like I said. And then what you're gonna do is we're gonna make, so I can just kind of push it around. Then I'm gonna take a smaller heart like this, And I'm gonna line it up like right inside, as if it was right inside my heart, right on the dough, and just punch out a heart in the center of that. So I've lined up the little points and the little part in the center. There. You can either just cook these along with, whoops, your hearts, or you can just fold it back up and make more hearts as you're going along. So now I have a heart that looks like this. There's a little cutout in the center. And I'm gonna place that right directly on top of one of the hearts. So you're gonna need, what's my water is, grab some water over here. And you're just gonna run along the edges of your big full heart. You're gonna run a little bit of water so that way this heart is going to stick to it a little bit better. So just a little bit with your fingers, with your finger. That, and then line it up, and then just repeat the process. So I'll make another heart here, and then punch out, oops, I messed him up. That's okay. Sticking a little bit, but that's all right. And then take my smaller heart out. And then this metal spatula, like I said, it's really great because it just cuts through. And this is also great. If your dough starts to stick, just scrape it up with the spatula. You can't go wrong. It comes right up, and then just roll it out. You cannot make any mistakes here. Or if you do, just you can correct it easily. So I'm gonna make a couple more of these little shapes. And the heart shape is really actually interesting how that came into play. Heart shapes, there's many theories of why hearts have been associated with Valentine's Day, but I was reading a story about a plant in North Africa back in the 7th century BC. I think it was called, I wrote it down because I thought I'd forget. It was Silphium. And it's like a giant form of fennel. So it's now extinct, but it was heart-shaped. And in fact, it was such a lucrative seasoning for them that it even appeared on their coins at the time. So that became associated with hearts and Valentine's, and then throughout the year, or not Valentine's yet, but throughout the years later on, then in the 14th century, the heart, I'm going to show you, if you turn a heart upside down, in the Middle Ages, really, they thought that it looked more like the actual human heart. So then they started flipping it like this, and eventually artists, and I think there was an Italian artist who used it, depicted it in his drawings, and eventually it became known to be a symbol of love. So let's see. Kind of interesting how things evolve. All right, so I have one more after this, and then I'm going to show you how to make the hearts with your Roma tomatoes. And these are great. I love having a savory option, just, this year, just with my kids, but my family. But it's always nice because I feel like there's so much chocolate and other goodies, candy. It's really great to have savory options. You can also just use your cookie cutters, and you can make crudité. The other day I took a watermelon radish. I actually wanted to show you, but they didn't have it the other day. But it's really, really pretty. You can use cucumbers, really anything. Use your imagination. I've made pita chips, just really anything to kind of make things like festive for your family, especially this year. It's kind of nice. Okay, so I have one more heart. And I'm gonna lay that there. Always remember to use the water along the edges. Just making a few, but this will probably make about 24 little hearts if you need them all, or you can just put the dough right back in your fridge. So there we go. Now, I'm gonna take this dough, just get it out of the way so I can show you. I don't have time to show you everything. Let's see, hopefully this come out now. Okay. I'm gonna show you my tomatoes. So I have these Roma tomatoes. They're nice and thick. So I need a knife. And I just get a big knife and I am gonna slice them like this and then just punch out my heart. So you can see that it goes through pretty easily and you just work the edges around it and you'll have a little heart. So you're just gonna wanna pop that right in the center. Sometimes it falls apart, has a little tendency, but that's okay. Just make it snug right in the center of your heart. And the puff pastry is gonna rise up over that. So I'm hoping I know work quickly. I want you to be able to see these. And there we go. A couple more little hearts. Okay, there we go. All right. And then you're gonna take some, the option for the cheese, you can use a goat cheese or Boursin or any kind of cheese. I'm just gonna leave one. And just put it underneath. You can use a little mozzarella. I'm gonna leave it because I wanna make sure that we get this in and out so I can show you. I'm gonna take him away. And I'm gonna pop these in the oven at 450 degrees for about 8 minutes, maybe a little less. Okay, so that is going. Now, I'm gonna show you how to make the frosting. I'm gonna use the same pot because I'm just adding about 2 ounces of this chocolate. So I'm gonna just break that up and a little more of the butter. Let's see, a couple tablespoons of the butter. And about 4 tablespoons of water. And I'm just gonna melt this. This is really easy. A little towel. And add my water right in there. So that doesn't take too long. And then I'll get my powdered sugar. So I'm gonna just make that melt. And when it's finished, the brownies, they're going to look like this. So I put these little sprinkles on top. They are so good, just like this. You can use anything you like. I have a whole host of them over here, but when I see them at the market, I tend to get them. And if you want, you can even, sometimes it's really fun. What you can do is just add a little bit of sprinkles. Even, let's see, maybe even pink. If you're gonna display them like this, you can just add some pink sprinkles around if you want. It doesn't matter, but if you're trying to make it look festive, just another idea. We did a photo shoot the other day and we added some sprinkles and it looks really fun. The same thing for really any other holiday. Just adds a little color to your plate. So those are the brownies, and I cut them into little bite-sized pieces because they're really rich and chocolatey, but delicious. So here we go. Okay, so this is melting. Get another spatula and just make sure that's all blended. And this frosting is very easy. You're just gonna add 2 cups of powdered sugar and about 1/4 teaspoon of your vanilla once it's cooled. You always want to wait till it's cooled to add that vanilla. This looks like it's melting fairly quickly. It doesn't take too long. You can whip up these brownies in no time, really. So there we go. It's almost ready. I'll let that sit there for just a second. Okay. So while that's going, I'll move this out so you can see. That will be ready. And then I will just show you, while we have a little extra time, and hopefully my little tartlets will come out in a second. Maybe I'll peek at them and see if I can show you what they look like. Not quite ready. But like I said, for the tartlets that are in the oven, the little tomatoes, you can use any kind of cheese. It just gives a little flavor. You can Use seasoned cheese if you like, or not, or just the little tomato. So I'm going to cut into this. I'm going to show you how to do like a quick crudité while I'm waiting for that chocolate. I made these for my kids, just fun. And you can eat the scraps so nothing goes to waste. And just take your mini little cutter, and I have lots of different sizes. Maybe if it's thicker, you can use this size. There. And just, it makes it kind of fun. So for kids or people, give my chocolate a stir. Okay. So that is nearly finished. I'm going to take that off. So I have a whole plate of these, and there's actually a tzatziki recipe, a little cucumber dip on my website, which is excellent with these. You can make pita chips doing the same thing. So that's on there as well. Pita, you just slice open the pita and use your cookie cutters, and then you bake it. I think it's 375 for about 8 minutes. So there are all sorts of ideas. Just make it festive. So now I have my frosting, my chocolate and butter is melted. I'm going to go ahead and add my powdered sugar. Try not to spill it all over. And then just make sure that's really blended. So if it's clumpy, the sugar, just keep stirring until it's really smooth. I'm just gonna check on my tartlets before and add your vanilla in here as well. And then I let it sit for a minute if I'm not pouring it over the whole batter or the brownies when they come out. You let them cool, definitely let them cool, and then add your frosting. So it's gonna come out like this. So it's a little runny at first, and just let it sit. You can see it's just let it sit a bit if you want to frost them individually, or if you want to spread it over the entire brownie when it's taken out of the oven and cool. So I'm hoping my little tartlets are ready to show you. Go check those. Okay, they are just about ready. Yes. So here they are. You can make them a little bit golden on top, and they are so delicious. These little guys, they're very hot. You want to serve them immediately, but wait a little bit, a couple minutes, because they're really hot with the dough. But you've got these incredible little hearts. They're so good. And again, something just savory. So I hope you get to try these recipes, and I will see you next time. Happy Valentine's Day.